put 60 bots in the Coleman River. The sun was glowing gold. The Pacific One and the Eldorado were the last boats working the plant. The crocodiles and the tiger sharks were happily at play. They left us alone to work in peace, and the groper did as well. The clouds are building up to the west, and early weather's coming soon. The season's gone, we're going home, we're sailing with the monsoon.
The northern Kimberley is a land of stark contrasts, bauxite reds and the brilliant greens of fan palms and grass trees. After a long drive up the Columba Road, we finally made it to Mitchell Falls, where a Sling Air chopper was waiting to take us for a bird's eye view of one of Australia's most awe-inspiring spots.
The Mitchell Plateau National Park is one of the largest parks in Australia. It protects over 3 million acres of one of the most pristine areas in the world. The water here is as clean as it gets. Waterfalls flow all year round. People come up here in droves just to see Mitchell Falls, but there's a lot more to this country.
This coastline is so virginal, so utterly remote, that few humans have ever set foot here. This is what the morning of the Earth must have looked like. An endless, fractalized coastline of raw, unadulterated colours.
This is absolutely stunning country. One of the things that makes this part of the world so unique is that this plateau has one of the largest bauxite concentrations in the world. Now that sounds pretty appealing if you're a mining company, but it also is the secret to the biological diversity of this part of the world. That bauxite acts like a giant sponge, soaks up the water that falls here during the wet season, and then basically meets it out during the rest of the year. And basically this place thrives year-round.
It is an epic journey to get to the Mitchell Plateau from just about anywhere. Watching the mangroves subsumed by the incoming tide is a sight I'll never forget. And seeing Mitchell Falls and Little Mertens Falls cascading into the abyss, throwing rainbows out into the canyon, makes the long trip here pale in comparison.
There's not many times in your life when you get to do something you've dreamt about for half your life. Standing here in front of the Mitchell Falls, I'm doing just that. This is one of those places I've seen in the movies, I've seen it in magazines for years. I've been to the Kimberley nearly half a dozen times and never made it up here. Finally standing on these cliffs with the falls behind me, this is living the dream.
I couldn't help but be a little bit jealous of our chopper pilot, Bryn Watson, who lives and works up here half the year.
In the dream time, Mitchell Falls were created when the rainbow serpents came up out of the ground at the top of the falls, made their way down here, carving out this canyon, and they still live in the bottom pools here. Bryn, this is a pretty spectacular place.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I'm blown away. You're here almost every day. Are you blown away every day?
Absolutely, it's a bit of a different lifestyle living in a tent, in the middle of nowhere, but definitely love it. There's no traffic, no noise, and just really back to basics with nature, and flying here is absolutely awesome.
After a day spent wandering around the strange exposed rock of the Mitchell Plateau, it was time to head back to the chopper for another hair-raising ride back to camp. The Kimberley is a place that deserves to be seen from every angle, in every light. It changes with the seasons, with the time of day. The rains come here and wash the rocks clean, and the winter sun dries everything to a crisp again, hazing the sky blood red with the ever-present smoke of fires that burn incessantly. These fan palms are elegantly geometric during the day, but at night they turn into malevolent shamans on the roadside, hanging down into your headlights like the spirits of this landscape, understandably angry at the never-ending encroachment of whitefellas and their civilization. We need the wilderness though. It is what teaches us that we are fallible and mortal. True wilderness is the measure of man, because it shows us where we begin and where we end. We fear it because it can kill us, but this is why we need it so badly. After the break, we check out 2 more Kimberley stations, Drysdale River and Ellenbrae. Despite the amount of traffic out here in the high season, the roads up here are still unforgiving if you don't have the right equipment. This broken down camper is a typical casualty of the potholes and endless corrugations that sometimes feel like they're going to shake your teeth right out of your head, and a dire reminder that the poor man buys everything twice, often at the expense of his whole holiday. The thin red creeks that run throughout the dry season are the lifeblood of this country, watering the emaciated Brahma cattle that thrive here against all odds. The muddy rivulets you cross in your 4-wheel drive along the Columba Road may end up as soaring waterfalls as they drop off the edge of a plateau meters from the side of the road, turning the mundane into the sublime. That's the ritual that we incite every time we get behind the wheel and head out into these primeval, forgotten lands. By taking ourselves away from our comfort zone, we are able to see things with a fresh perspective. The only God you find in the desert is the God you bring with you, but the long, dusty search is what brings the truth to light, not the destination. Drysdale River Station is one of the more remote outposts in the Kimberley, ensconced between the Gibb River Road and the Mitchell Plateau. If you're traveling north from here, odds are you're going to have to at least stop in to fill up the tank, as there are no supplies to the north unless you go all the way into the Columba Township. In the outback, fuel stops are never casual. They are the modern traveler's only way to keep moving, and a great way to catch up on the road conditions ahead.
If you're headed up to Mitchell Falls or anywhere else up on the Mitchell Plateau, one place you have to stop is Drysdale River Station. It's about 57 k's up the Columba Road. It's got everything you need to keep you on your way when you get up here. Obviously you've got petrol, diesel, a shop, beautiful camping, hot showers, and Cookie here, who makes one of the best dinners I've ever had on the road. So you've been coming up to Drysdale for years.
Yep.
You pretty much live here half the year now.
Yep.
What is it about this place, this part of the country that draws you?
Oh, it's just the Kimberley in general. It's one of the last sort of outposts in Australia. The colours, the people, the characters, and the amount of different people that you meet on the road and that come through Drysdale all the time.
So Drysdale River, you're heading north, even if you just want somewhere awesome to stop on the way west on the Gibb, this place is a must-see.
A little heavier with fuel and supplies, we made our way back down to the Gibb River Road to continue the search.
There are a million types of accommodation for sleeping in the bush, but the camper trailer combines the best of a million worlds. This thing is tough as nails. It'll follow this vehicle anywhere, and that's a Land Cruiser it's following, so that's saying a lot. This Jono's Evolution has literally followed us from coast to coast over almost 2 years without any worries at all. But it's not just about the durability. Having a camper trailer means you get heaps of storage. I mean, this thing can store enough gear for a whole film crew. Imagine how easy it'll be to pack everything for you and your kids in for a big trip around the country. The kitchen is one of the best I've seen. The Sovereign barbecue means no more ramen noodles for dinner every night. We get roast half the time. And the tent takes about the same amount of time to put up as a couple of swags. And if you do want to expand this for your family, you can put a children's room out the back so the kids have their own space and they're at mom and dad's feet. Now this thing's won a lot of awards over the years, but I think nothing says success like its ability to follow Craig and I around Australia without anything going wrong.
bumps and corrugations of the Columba Road, the Gibb River Road felt like a highway. Heading back east into the rising sun, I felt all turned around. It just seems like, when you're heading this far west, the only way forward is further west until you hit the Indian Ocean. I wanted to drop in on Ellenbrae Station though. The new owners here are doing their best to turn the working station into a place worth dropping in on, and they've accomplished a lot already. Located about halfway down the Gibb River Road, Ellenbrae is forging a unique place in this Boab-dotted landscape as the home of the best scones in the Kimberley. An open-air art gallery and some strange plumbing all add to the allure of this roadside attraction.
Ellenbrae Station is one of the few proper oases along the Gibb River Road. You can get cold drinks, you can camp here, you can get, I'm told, some of the best scones on the Gibb River Road.
They are the best in the world, but they are the best in the Gibb River Road, yes.
What's the secret to a good scone?
Just the love and care when you put into the scone. And a lot of them, I guess. You should get a lot of practice, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
You guys have a really intriguing feature here, the Boab sort of bathroom ensuite.
Yeah.
What's the story there? Somebody got the bright idea to...
Well, I suppose when they first come out of a shower, they found a big tree, and it was the best, easiest place to put a shower head and run some water.
But the water doesn't actually come out of the Boab?
No, it's all a gimmick, yeah, it goes straight through the tree. And they used to charge the tourists $2 a glass of Boab water. I can't do that, too much of a scam, I laugh too much. I try and say, oh no, it's true, but no, I can't do it.
Alright, it's time to get into the best scone on the Gibb River Road. It might be the only scone on the Gibb River Road, but we'll give this baby a try. These guys have quite the operation here. It's nice to have a little bit of civilization this far from anything. And I think there's people that tell you that there's nothing more civilized than fresh scones. And these are hot right out of the oven. And anybody will tell you that I'm not really a scone kind of man. But when something's done well, you have to appreciate it, and this is done bloody well.
When you're out touring on the road, one of the hardest things to do is keep everything charged up. We all have cameras, laptops, and phones that we want to keep charged up on the road, and it's hard to do. The bane of my life was always carrying around a generator. Every night I'd be running it, means I had to carry petrol, and I always had to camp in the generator sites, the national parks, which is no fun. You don't get any sleep. Redarc saved my life with the 1500 watt inverter. I've got that hooked up to a separate battery system in the back of the 100, and it means quiet power every night, no matter where we're camped. So I never get shafted and stuck into the generator area anymore with every other noisy camper. Nowadays, we get all the best sites, and everything stays charged up.
Coming up, some classic Kimberley four-wheel driving, Aboriginal art, and beautiful Wanamurra Gorge on Mount Elizabeth Station. Driving down the Gibb again towards Mount Elizabeth Station, I'm reminded of the last time I was here, stuck up to my axles in black soil for something like 9 hours. I learned a lesson that day that anyone who spends a good amount of time in the Kimberley understands implicitly. This is a harsh landscape, but it is a harshness that rewards one with beauty if you make it through. And I think that's a big part of the allure of this place. Mount Elizabeth Station has two of the most picturesque gorges in the Kimberley, hidden deep within the station. But to get to them, you have to traverse some fairly serious tracks. It's a wild station, completely untamed despite decades of running cattle, a testament to the timelessness of the land and its indefatigable resilience. From the homestead, we headed straight out toward Wanamurra Gorge. The track winds around natural cairns of old Kimberley rock, sometimes descending solid staircases of stone bearing the scars of dozens of transfer cases. I can't help but spare a thought for the pioneers who came here looking for success. In this land of perennial droughts, I feel like they must have been more than desperate. Ultimately though, joy is defined by suffering, and the arduous track out to the gorge is the ritual of fire by which we reach paradise. The gauntlet that separates those who are worthy of having the Kimberley Gorge all to themselves from those who aren't. And as we trundled through the last stands of tall grass, creeping over rocks as old as the earth, we couldn't help but feel reborn as we walked the last half kilometre or so out to the gorge. Out to a place where time stands still, where your thoughts become nothing but white noise against such purity of form.
Ellenbrae Gorge. It's in the middle of Mount Elizabeth Station. One of the things I love about the Gibb River Road is the way that some of the local station owners have diversified into tourism. They've opened their gates to let us come in, have a look at their little piece of paradise. You can come to these joints like this, and I've got the whole place to myself. Don't get me wrong, the big tourist operations are great too, but when you come into these privately run places, you can just find a spot like this to yourself and just take the whole lot in for the day. One of those times, one of those places. We're going for a walk down the river, just looking for another rock pool, glance over the left shoulder, boom, how would you be? These guys are called the Wodgeners. They must have been the tribe that moved around here because they painted all through the Kimberley. No one knows exactly how old these are, but to stand in front of these knowing that potentially they're 30, 40, 50,000 years old, it's an experience.
Caught us a little water monitor here at Mount Elizabeth. These guys, you can tell they've evolved from the sort of land-based goannas with that tail. It's got that ridge line across the top that turns it into a bit of a fin. So these guys can swim underwater, hold their breath for a while. It's cold-blooded, so on these cool Kimberley mornings, they have to stand out in the sun and get that body temperature up. I guess the trick of being cold-blooded, the trick that's kept all these reptiles alive through everything in this country is being cold-blooded. It means you can go a long time without food because you can slow your metabolism right down. What goes up must come down, and as we inched our way back to the campground at Mount Elizabeth, we all felt a little cleaner, a little freer of the detritus of city life. You gain a lot on these trips, but what really matters is what you lose. The layers that peel off like dead skin. The feeling of being lost in the world that we all bear under city lights. The sense that the world can't look after itself in the face of the onslaught of modern life. The stress and worry of the everyday become as distant as your mailbox, and you realize that the water in these gorges doesn't just clean off the bull dust and sweat. It takes away all of your baggage and runs it downstream to the ocean, back to the source.
Mount Elizabeth Station has given us a whole different perspective of the Kimberley area. Mate, how was that track today?
Yeah, look, it's only about 10 k's, but it's some of the most challenging four-wheel driving that you get mid-Gibb. What a payoff at the end, that gorge.
It was gorgeous.
There's been a bit of that this episode. Mitchell Falls, for me, in the chopper, checking that out. That was amazing.
It's an amazing place, isn't it?
But every station up here is different. I mean, Drysdale, Ellenbrae, Mount Elizabeth, they've all got their own flavour.
This one had a bit of four-wheel driving that we haven't seen for a while. I mean, we've seen corrugated roads, but this was proper four-wheel drive.
Yeah, it was a good day. Here's to another one, living the dream.
Tune in next week for more Kimberley Gorges, Outback Stations, and the scariest cliff jump of my life.